Oh, what a feeling. It's more to a story when you count up who you dealing with. Losing's not an option, a subject or a predicate. They say the sky's the limit. Yes, I'm busting through the city. Miles to Mogul. I do you one that's better, rather show you than I told you. Yeah, and everybody sweating know you until you go Super Saiyan on them. Goku. Everybody sweating know you. Everybody sweating know you. Now. Everybody sweating know you. Everybody sweating know you. Now.
All right. On this episode of Miles to Mogul, I have somebody that I remember my coworker, Deidre, raving about, like, how talented this guy is. And I was like, I got to check this guy out. Like, who is this Daniel Fears guy? I need to listen to some of the music. And at the time, one of my other coworkers was being featured in one of your music videos, Nadia. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this Daniel guy is still on my radar here. And then I covered you for Black History Month for my job. And we were chatting on social media here and there. I think you reshared it or something like that. And then I just randomly ran into you in front of a yoga studio. Right. I'm coming out of yoga class. You're going into yoga class. And you're like, Miles. And I'm like, Daniel? Because I was like, is it who I think it is? And you're like, I'm Daniel. I'm like, oh, my God. First time, like, actually, I feel like meeting each other in person.
Right.
Which is crazy. So today in the studio, I have a phenomenal artist, talented musician, a go-getter, an intellectual that thinks deeper than most human beings. Just from being in his presence, I've noticed that. Daniel Fears.
Thank you. That's a hell of an introduction.
Oh, well, you deserve it, of course. You moved from H-Town to Austin. Mm-hmm. What made you make the leap?
It was for school at first. So my mom and I drove up here to audition for the School of Music at UT. And as soon as I got out the car, my mom said I just like ran out, and I was like, "What is this place?" And I didn't want to come back. I've been here since, pretty much. You know, I do enjoy it here. I really do.
How was it growing up in H-Town and like your parents like supporting you throughout your upbringing? Because I just feel like you might have had like a really supportive family because you've accomplished so much. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I did have a supportive family. Like, I think in a lot of ways, they really encouraged me to go after the things that I was interested in. And okay, you want to do that? All right, let's try this club. You want to play sports? Okay, let's do this. Okay, you want to do band? All right, let's do this. They were really supportive in that way. It was interesting, like, in terms of, they were supportive in that way, a little restrictive in other ways in terms of like, okay, I want to go hang out at this person's house. They're like, all right, I need to go meet their parents. We got to like talk to them. What kind of games are they playing? What movies are they watching? All that stuff. And it was a little restrictive in that way. It was like super religious household, you know? But I think what was good about it is it did teach me like a little bit of discernment, I think, and a little bit of paying attention to who you're around, whose energy you're like sort of taking in, you know what I mean? But I think the support that they provided was like a foundation for, you know, the career that I have right now and what I'm doing right now, you know? Yeah.
Wow. So you're talking about like the energy that you just encounter on a daily basis as a human being. Like right. what situations to put yourself in, who are the people that you're constantly hanging around, all the things. So basically discernment at an early age.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it is. I'm grateful for it. At the time I was like, can I just hang out with these people over here? Like, what's the big deal? But I think, yeah, it's like the people you surround yourself with, the shows, the music, all the things that you like take in, it has a big impact on what you think about, how you move through the world, how you see yourself, how you see other people, you know?
Absolutely. And then growing up in H-Town, what was that like? Because that's way different than Austin. I call it my like Texas chocolate city. That's really what I refer to H-Town as. And I know H-Town for its like amazing hip hop culture, like that it had when I was growing up, and before that too. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, what was the scene like in Houston? What was it like growing up there? So I I was raised in like Pearland, just
Okay.
outside of there, and so I'd be going back between Pearland and Houston on a regular basis. But what I loved about it, like even in Pearland, that was like probably the most diverse place I've ever lived in my life. It's Black people, it's Latinos, it's white folks, it's Asian folks. It's like this super diverse place. And so you get a bit of like all these different cultures, all these different worlds, and I felt like I was a part of that. Like, you know, when I go to church, it was a lot of my black friends, and we were listening to music like after, you know, we praise the Lord and whatnot. But we were listening to like the music that we liked, the hip hop, the R&B, the soul, the pop stuff that we liked. You know what I mean? And so that was part of my community there. And then, you know, after that, I would go to like youth symphony, you know, it's like that's a whole different like world, a whole different language, a whole different set of values. You know, and so it was like interesting to be in all these different little environments and trying to, you know, navigate all of those. I want to say that I was like heavily involved in the music scene then. Part of me wishes I was, but I didn't really start doing music out in public until I moved to Austin, you know?
Right.
But I wonder what that scene was like. You told me, like,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit that you were in a music video.
He's outing me. No. Well, yes, I was in a music video called Sitting Sideways. Yeah, with who was that at the time? Paul Wall and now my Big Pokey. Yeah, that was, and then what's even more H-Town about this whole situation is that Hawk was on the set of the music video. And if you don't know who Hawk is, you need to Google him because he's my favorite H-Town rapper, just point blank, period. But he was on the set and I guess him and the director had a conversation. He was like, I want the girl in the yellow tank top. And that was me. And I knew all of his songs. I knew all of the lyrics. So I'm like, everything looking lovely. Champagne, caviar, sipping bub. He's like, who is this girl? I'm like reciting his lines to him. But at the time, to me, like looking back now on it, at the time I didn't know what I was in. Like I didn't know that this was like a moment in time in history that would continue to be in like hip hop culture in 2024.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now looking back at it, I'm like, dang, that was like a really cool time.
Yeah.
I'm literally a student at the University of Texas at the time, getting emails and texts or calls about like, hey, do you want to come do this music video thing? Because I have no talent when it comes to music. I was just there to look cute. But it was so fun. Like it was so fun. So many people in the parking lot just hanging out. They had like a spinning stage. If you ever watch the video, you'll see them. On a spinning stage, all these cars in the parking lot. It was just like a parking lot like scene, and it was like a beautiful situation. But yeah, the music culture at that time was really cool. I also remember being at like Prairie View because I went there my freshman year, and these artists used to come to our school and pass out tapes and CDs. Like they were really doing the legwork. Like people that we see on TV now that we consider H-Town legends were doing their own work.
Right. I heard Slim Thug was a millionaire before he made that song with Pharrell. You know, that's what Pharrell was saying in the interview, you know? Yeah. He had built all this stuff himself. You know?
I absolutely believe that 1,000% because they were making the music and then they were getting their money from the consumer. There was no middleman.
And they owned it all, so like any royalties and all that stuff.
Yeah, so that's crazy. Yeah. So now I have to know who your favorite H-Town rapper is.
Okay, yeah. So definitely like, I mean, I'll say this. When I was in Houston, it was like I get tapes of like the hits, like right. Of course, it was the Paul Walls. Of course, it was the Slim Thugs. It was the Zeros. That whole clique. I'd probably say Paul Wall. I'd probably say the verses that are like most memorable would be like, Paul Wall would be Slim Thug, like. Probably them, you know? Yeah.
I love both of them too. Slim Thug is just like, that's the guy. Come on.
Like, you listen to like, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say that's the guy. That's one of my favorite H-Town people too, for sure. What were you gonna say?
Have you heard like some of the new Houston rappers like that Mexican OT?
No.
He's like all over my YouTube, all over.
What? Yeah, okay, now you have to send me some music. So who is it again?
That Mexican OT.
Yeah. Listening. So you think I should listen?
Yeah,
Okay.
listen to it. Listen
All
to
right,
it.
I'm gonna check it out. I want to get back to you though. You
Okay, all
put the
right.
spotlight on me for a second. You grew up playing music at Lakewood Church, and your mom was like the music director there, right?
That's close.
Okay, gotcha.
So my mom was a music director at Lakewood Church.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's where she directed, and that's where I first got inspired. Like, I really want to play drums. I really want to like be involved in music. But I didn't. The time that I actually got to perform in church was when we left that church.
Okay, gotcha.
And went to a smaller church.
Okay.
Yeah. So
some of your inspiration came from her being at Lakewood.
yeah.
Okay.
It was rehearsals every weekend, and sometimes midweek too. You know, we get to see these outstanding musicians and these choir and these great singers just doing their thing. Like, it was inspiring. I wanted to be a part of it. You know.
So what's the first instrument that you actually picked up?
Not for very long, but apparently we played violin when I was like 4. I barely remember it.
Okay.
Barely remember it. But then after that, it was piano.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wanted to play drums bad. I was like 10, and so we asked the drum teacher or the drummer at Lakewood Church, like, hey, can I get lessons from you? And he's like, every drum student I have has to take 2 years of piano first.
Whoa.
And then they can take lessons with me. So I was like, okay. So I like signed up for piano lessons, did 2 years of that, and then we left the church. So I never got the
2
lessons.
years of piano?
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
like that. Do you think that was his measure to see how serious you were?
Looking back, yeah, probably. Because how many people come up and like, yeah, I want to bang the drums. I just want to like, you know?
It sounds fun to me.
It does, exactly. Exactly. But he's looking for a certain type, you know, I think he was looking for a certain type of student, you know?
Right.
A certain type of musician.
Okay.
So never did get that drum lesson.
Oh, come on. I wish
Yeah.
I knew his name.
Yeah, I wish I knew his name too.
That teacher at Lakewood, you know who you are.
You know who you are. 1999, probably.
Okay, so then that happens and you don't get the lesson. Y'all move to a smaller church. So then what instrument do you kind of like cling to?
Okay, so then it's trombone in school.
Okay.
And then by the time we turned 14, that time I turned 14, there was the pastor of the church bought a drum set. And then I was like, okay, I can get back into it. So I started like teaching myself, and I just would just do a basic beat. I was just trying to play booms, guys, don't, guys. So what I had to do to get the coordination down was I had to slow it down to like, doom, God. But I would sit there and like focus on doing that until I got it, you know, right, till it felt good, and we like start to speed it up. But that's something I like discovered is like when I'm really clear about what I want and I know what I need to do to get there, I'm just gonna like zero in on it, you know, until we get it, you know. We're gonna figure it out, you know.
So you're pretty much self-taught with drums.
Yeah, I did take I took a couple of lessons, but for the most part, I was just listening to records and like trying to figure it out, you know, and then having to perform on Sunday. So for like 3 or 4 years, that was what I was doing on drums, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did classical music come into the picture? And when did Brian Logan enter the picture?
Oh, yeah, Brian Logan. Shout out to Brian if he happens to be listening. But, yeah, so I was playing trombone in school around 11. We joined a public school, and you had the option of being in band, choir, or art. And I chose band. Wanted to do percussion, but that was not an option. And of course, because like we said, everybody wants to play drums. Everybody wants to play drums.
Including me. I want to.
Right. So it's like that was taken. That was already taken. All right, well, how about the trumpet? That was taken. Everybody, okay, what about the saxophone? That was taken. And so like I remember being in the classroom at 11 years old, and it's like the first day of band class, and one of the directors is asking each kid what they decided they were going to play. And I saw this kid that I knew from down the street, and he raised his hand. He's like, trombone. And so when it came to me, I was like, trombone. Didn't even know what a trombone was.
Oh my goodness.
But from there, like I loved band. I loved making music in like sort of like a community. I loved making stuff with other people. I felt like I didn't fit in so much in school, and especially in public school that first year. And so band was a place for me to like, it almost like felt like a level the playing field. Like it felt like, oh, we just get to make music. It's not about the clothes that I'm wearing. It's not about the way that I talk or the music that I listen to. It's like, it's about just playing and doing this right now.
Yeah.
You know? So I was into that. So I was really into that.
Right.
Fast forward a couple of years, and I encountered this teacher named Brian Logan. And he was a freelance musician, still is a freelance musician in the Houston area, played with the Houston Symphony, played with salsa bands, played with like other like Latin bands, played with like Broadway shows, churches, the whole thing. And he introduced me to this whole world of classical music, you know. And that was great, man. That got me involved with the youth symphony there. That got me involved with Allstate. I did all of that stuff. He was just like a huge force in my life in terms of like knowing that being a musician is possible. Mm-hmm. Knowing that being a professional musician is possible. You don't have to be a starving artist to do it, you know. I think I mentioned this to you before, and I've said in other spaces, but he drove an Acura, so I was like, oh, he must really have it.
He's winning.
He's winning. He's winning. So I was like, okay, I could do this. He had a girlfriend, his now wife, then she, you know, also a musician, and just like he had a whole like community of people, and that was just inspiring to me. I just wanted to be a part of that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. I love that in your life, it's kind of like, I mean, of course, we all create our own reality. But at the same time, like there's people that are entering your life that are showing you different things so that you can navigate your passion and purpose right now. Like it's crazy that you were in Pearland. It was super diverse so that you can talk to all types of people. No problem there. Right. Then you go to you're at this big church. Your mom's the music director. Then you go to the smaller one, and now you can actually play the drums when you couldn't play it at the big church because you needed to do the 2 weeks of piano lessons.
2 years.
2 years, sorry. My bad. 2 years of piano lessons, right? And then, you're going through all these different instruments and things like that. And then you meet Brian Logan, who shows you, like, actually, I can turn my passion and purpose into money. Like, I can also take care of myself as a human being. And I have all these tools already. And it's possible because this other person is doing it. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like representation. We say representation matters. And a lot of times when we talk about that, we talk about it in like, black and brown spaces and stuff like that. But I feel like representation matters too with your dreams and goals.
It's so true.
Yeah. If you don't see somebody that's actually doing what you want to do, for a living, it's hard to be able to be like, well, how can I make that tangible? How can I make that thing real that I'm trying to do? Right.
It's, when you can see, exactly. If you can see it, you can be it. If you're around the energy, the attitudes, if you're around the attitudes of the people who are doing whatever it is that you want to do, like you can absorb that. And that attitude informs the kind of decisions that you make and the kind of moves you make, the kind of music that you make. Mm-hmm. It's really powerful.
It really is. And then also just having a supportive system telling you, like parents telling you, like you can do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You might not be able to hang out with whoever you want to hang out with, but we're going to let you do whatever you want to do when it comes to you being a creator and creating things and stuff like that. And I just think it's like super important to have somebody that's a mentor, because in a way, this guy seems like he's a mentor to you.
Right. He was.
Yeah.
He was the one who was like, well, if you're going to go to college and you want to do music, think about the University of Texas. Think about North Texas also,
No, North Texas.
Yeah.
University of Texas.
I got it. Okay, I'll say
okay,
this.
say it. Tell me. Okay.
North Texas, but maybe just a little bit.
Okay.
I remember we went to UT first.
Okay.
And like I told you before, I just ran out of the car.
Right. Your mom is like, where you going? You're like, I'm off to win, Mom.
Right. North Texas, it wasn't the same. It was
it's
a muggy
Denton, Texas.
Day. It's Denton, Texas. It's not Austin, Texas. It is not Austin, Texas.
No shade to Denton, but I only went there for one reason, to see my friends that went to UNT. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, I don't know anything else in Denton, Texas.
Right. I hear, in their defense, I know they have a good music scene up there. They got a lot of good artists and things like that.
Might need to roll up to Denton.
You might.
Okay.
But the day I went,
okay,
it was not a place I wanted to be, but yeah, UT won out and here we are,
You were gonna say no shade to somebody. Was it Denton?
It was to North Texas.
Okay, gotcha. Hilarious.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So you went to UT for your undergrad, which is already like, to me, I'm a Longhorn, by the way.
Okay.
So to me, it's a hook 'em. Yes. It's a big flex, I feel like, in Texas anyway. And like beyond, it's a top tier school to go to. But then you took it a little further. And maybe not a little further, like a lot further. You went to Yale to get your master's?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, like I said, it like I've said in the past, it seemed like the best logical choice. I kind of had a crossroads, honestly.
Okay.
Because my last year at UT, I finally started to like play out on the music scene, and I like got my first taste of like writing music, which at that point I hadn't ever like formally done, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would like make up songs with my friends about like whatever, you know. We would freestyle like whatever, like we would just make stuff up. But like I didn't like to start, to finish, to write down a song, to record something. I'd never done that up until my last year in Austin. So I auditioned for Yale because again that felt like the next logical like step, you know, to being a professional musician. And at that time, you know, I had started playing out. You know, I had started collaborating with artists in Austin. And I remember talking to my mom and being like, should I mean, this sounds crazy to say now, but should I keep doing what I'm doing in Austin, or should I go to Yale? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of maybe put that other stuff to the side. And she's like, well, what can you only do? Like, one of these you can only do right now.
Mm-hmm.
This opportunity is not coming back. You know what I mean? And from there, it's like, okay, yeah, let's do it, and I can come back to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful I did. I'm so grateful I did. You
Right.
know? Even beyond the music, it just like completely shifted my whole mindset.
When you went to Yale?
Yeah.
Before you went to Yale, though, when you were at UT, your mom also told you, like, just finish school.
Just finish school.
Were you stressed at the time? Why did she tell you that?
Oh, I was stressing. Yeah. I mean, like, to go from playing in high school, you know, where, you know, you're practicing for a few hours a day and you're performing on the weekends and stuff like that, and practicing on the weekends and stuff, that's one thing. But to be immersed in it, and like it's music all day, it's not, you're no longer like the big fish. It's like all these other people playing on a level that maybe you hadn't imagined before. And all these people doing these things that you didn't maybe even imagine was possible, you know? So it was a huge culture shock. It was a huge culture shock. And I think honestly too, I felt like I was kind of going through it. I felt like I was working really hard, and yet I felt like I was maybe lacking community. You know, people would invite me out to stuff. Like, I had a friend who would invite me to like some of the fraternity parties and like the events and stuff. And he pledged. Mm-hmm. But I was like, no, I got to practice. Like, no, I can't. Like, I got to do this. And I'm grateful for the path that my life has taken. And there's this part of me that still kind of wishes that I had like kind of taken advantage a little bit more. Like, go like live a little, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm getting that in now at this part of my life. But like, part of me wishes, I had really leaned into that a little bit more, you know?
So at the time when you were at UT and you were around like this, I guess in this space of like somebody going from playing college ball to the NBA and like being the star on the team in college, and then going to the league and being like, oh, I'm surrounded by all these stars. Did you feel like, okay, I got to put in more time in the gym? Yeah. I got to put in more time in the gym, and I don't have time to party. I don't have time to do anything else. So you were like a young Kobe. Like, I don't got time to do what everybody else is doing that's 19 or 18. And he went from high school straight to the league. Right. So that was just like, I just got to live, eat, and breathe this thing. Right.
There's no other. It felt like there was no other way. It felt like, oh man, it felt like I can't go, it sounds crazy, but I can't go back home and live with my mom. I can't go back home and like not accomplish what I like set out to do. I just felt like that was a thing that was really kind of pushing me forward. Like, I want to be independent. I want to like take care of myself. I want to succeed at this. Like, that was really driving the whole thing, you know? It's like, however I can do that, I'm gonna do that.
Man, that's deep within too, because
Yeah.
everybody don't have that.
Right,
like that
right.
go-getter, like I can't go back. I got to do this. I got to keep going. I see my dream. I see my vision.
Right.
So then you get to Yale, because you're like, okay, I'm leaving the Austin music scene. I'm going to Yale now. Then what? Is that another level of this? Daniel, what's going on now at Yale? Because I can only imagine at UT if we got all this competition.
Yeah.
At Yale, we're probably like, what am I doing here?
I know. It's like, I remember just like talking to people who were in the music program, and it was like they had the next 10 years of their life mapped out. It was
Shut
like,
up.
You know what I mean?
At like 22 or 23 years old.
Well, I think I'm gonna go to New York and I'm gonna start this organization. And from here, I'm gonna do this. And
What?
yeah, nobody knows. Nobody really knows. I think there's some people who can call it and say, like, from the position they're in, they're like, I'm gonna be this type of person. This is exactly what I'm gonna be doing at this time rate. And some people do that, but that's not everybody's path.
No.
That is not everybody's path.
No.
And I think it took me a while to realize that. But kind of like back to your question, I felt like at Yale, it was, again, another level. It was a whole other level. Like,
I want a new level.
Yeah. But I would see people who were winning these international competitions, and I did competitions too. We won and did that at UT also. But they were doing it on bass, but they also played jazz piano, and they also were brilliant songwriters and blah blah blah, and like just savants. You know what I mean? And I think that was like the first time I had seen that on that level. Just so many people who were performing on such a high level. It was really inspiring. Like, and in the first couple of weeks, I was like, man, I don't know. I want to go back to Austin with my friends, just kind of like, making music, doing what I want to do, et cetera, et cetera. And this time it wasn't encouragement from my mom. This time it was me. I was like, if I look back on this time, and I went to Yale, I had the opportunity to go, and people asked me about it. I'm like, yeah, I went, but I quit. I don't think I would feel good I wouldn't feel good about myself. I wouldn't feel good in that interaction, number one, but number two, I wouldn't be able to look back at that time with like some kind of pride or some kind of like, I'm glad I did that, So that was my thing. I was like, look, it doesn't feel easy for me right now. It looks like it's easy for other people, but it doesn't feel easy for me, but I'm just going to keep going. This is how I'm going to grow. And that was the truth. I had no idea what was coming for me. I had no clue, but like, I'm grateful I did. Like, I wouldn't be doing the stuff that I'm doing now if it wasn't for that time.
Yeah, you had to get comfortable being uncomfortable,
right?
And then comfortable being uncertain, because we, as humans, we want to know every single thing that's about to happen. And I think the biggest thing that we miss is like, we need to know our goal. That's it. We don't need to know how we're going to get there. We just need to know our goal, because a lot of times when we're like, I want to turn the car this way, we got to go this way, there might be an accident that way. There might be too much traffic the way you're trying to go, and your GPS is telling you to go another way. And you're like, nah. It's like, no, you got to be open to all possibilities and not limit yourself.
Right.
Because it's the universe is in God's way of like giving you what you asked for, but we're so stubborn.
Right.
So for you to just be like, I'm just gonna finish. I'm just gonna go with. This feels weird. It don't feel like I'm supposed to be all the way in this space. Something's off, and something maybe not be exactly the way I wanted to, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah. So kudos to you for that.
Appreciate that.
That's major for sure. So you're at Yale, and then you end up having a lip injury.
Yeah. So I hadn't really said this here, but I went for a trombone. It was to play like in orchestra, to play in chamber music, to teach. There's all these different routes for that. But so yeah, I was playing trombone. I was playing a lot, hours and hours a day. And then I was playing at a summer festival where we were performing probably 4 or 5 times a week. And I just got this like pinprick kind of like in my lip, like a feeling, just a, and it hurt a lot just to put the mouthpiece on my face. And I just rested for the rest of the day, and it kind of went away. And then maybe a couple months later, it happened again. And then I rested, And then all of a sudden it just kept happening more and more. So by November, you know, I couldn't even put the mouthpiece to my face without an intense amount of pain. Right. So it felt like it was impossible to play. So this is my third semester at Yale. You only have 4. And the people around me are getting jobs with military bands, with orchestras, with, you know, all these different they're out living their professional lives, getting record contracts, all that, you know, and I'm like, I can barely play, you know? And so in that time, it just forced me to reset everything. It's like, what am I doing actually? I'm really practicing all the time. I'm really not seeing people. I'm not hanging out with people that I like. And like, I think it was a big wake-up call. That's when I started creating my own music. That's when songs were started to come to me. That's when melodies started to come to me. It got me out of my sort of a rut, you know, that I, or at the very least out of the rhythm that I've been in for the last like 5-6 years, you know. And that just put a lot of things in perspective for me. And that's when I started writing. That's when I started getting creative. That's when I started bands up there. That's when I started to meet other people in different schools. That's like, I remembered I love being around people. I love being like close with people. I love that. And the way that I was living was keeping me from doing that, you know?
Yeah. So you were somewhat like isolating yourself for greatness. You were like, I gotta, you know, in order for me to be great, I gotta isolate myself because I need to spend every waking moment like towards this goal, this dreamer goal. Right. You know what I mean? And then it seems like another moment of being uncomfortable for you because now you're even more uncertain. You already just got to Yale, which is a big deal. Right. And you're around all of these like, you know, musical geniuses. Is what you described to me. And then this injury happens and it's like, now what? And you could have like, you know, sat in the corner and been like, well, I guess this is it. But you were like, nah, there's some creative juices flowing here. Right. Put me back in the game, coach. And it kind of turned your life around in a way in the music space. Right. Yeah. Right. And kind of moved in a space that I you know, planted the seeds for moving in a way that I don't think I'd ever really imagined for myself, you know. Yeah, that changed my life. That period of time really changed my life, you know. Yeah. Wow. In fact, one of the first song I ever wrote and finished was during that time period. Yeah. And we just released it maybe a week ago. What? Yeah. So I was like walking down the street in New Haven, Connecticut. It's snow in piles like up to here. I'm in boots and everything, and I'm seeing like pictures on Facebook of my friends like on the beach and like, you know, enjoying themselves and things like that. And I feel like inside I was just craving like home. I was craving like comfort. I was craving like community. And this melody came to mind. It's like da 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 dum dum dum. And from there, like I, you know, try to put some chords underneath it and try to like make it feel good, and you know, from there that song eventually became, I think, one that people request every time I play, and I play it every single time I perform, weddings, at my own shows, I performed at like a funeral. Like it's like, to me it just feels like this real universal sort of song. Like, which song is this? It's called Home. Home. It is called Home. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. It's called Home. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So the seeds were planted for creating music that maybe for the life that I wanted to live. You know. Yeah. So it's just taking cues from the universe, or the force like sit down moment. You know what I mean? Man, you just said taking cues from the universe. Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's not a cue. Sometimes it's like you just kind of get strapped down. Like, you know what I mean? Well, you know, the way the universe works, Daniel. I mean, you know how the universe works. It's like it gives you these little clues along the way. And if you don't take the clue, then eventually it's just like, well, we're going to go this way. Because this is the clues that I was giving you. You decided not to turn the car right. And now we just got to turn the car right. And sometimes it feels very uncomfortable, you know, when it turns the wheel for you. But if you sit there and think about it, it's like, all along I've been getting signs to go this way.
Right.
If you can get out of your emotions and notice that, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it's also a beautiful thing to like just have the awareness to pick up on the signs so you don't have to do the sharp right turn.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. But sometimes
Or
there's
left turn.
I feel like for me, I can be a little stubborn, so I feel like that was
that was
the
way.
only way.
Yeah.
That was the only way it was gonna happen. That was the only way.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And you use the term cues from the universe, and you grew up in a religious household. That's what you said. How are you now with it? Or do you consider yourself more spiritual or religious, or are you in both, or how do you kind of connect now?
Yeah, I'd say definitely more on the spiritual side now. There's a lot of tenets and ideas that I still, from Christianity, that I still hold close, and from other religions as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it's like it's spirituality. I feel the spirit in the music that I make, and
Right.
the people that I meet, and the stories that I hear. You know, it's the books that I read. It's to me, it feels bigger than one way, and that's just for me. And
Right. Absolutely.
That's
yeah,
just
yeah.
for me.
Yeah,
you know?
for me as well. I feel like religion and spirituality, or whatever way you decide to connect, is almost like the little connectors that we get when we go overseas. You know, the little the plugs that you have. The sockets are all different. You know what I mean? But you still get the connection.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, are you happy? I always ask people, like, I don't say like, what religion are you? Or, you know, I'm trying to ask you to define yourself. I want to know, are you happy? You know what I mean? Is your source feeding you? Wherever you get your, you know, your connection from, are you being fed? Are you being able to connect with others? Are you being able to stand in a place of non-judgment and not be divisive? Because I feel like some religions and some things that people follow just in general can create this divisive thing where it's like, my team's better than your team.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, all of the teams can play together. It's actually okay.
Right.
Nobody really knows when we leave Earth what's actually happening.
I mean,
But some of us say that we do.
Right.
And then I have watched a lot of those near-death experience videos, and everybody has a different story. So I almost think it's like it's whatever you think it's gonna be. So my thing is like, when I leave Earth, Nipsey and Tupac will be waiting for me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? With
yeah.
with a whole bunch of tennis shoes, and and we'll be able to watch the NBA playoffs, and they'll have all of my little books that I like to read, and all of the figures that I admire will be there, and it'll be fine.
You feel like you'll be like your now self? You feel like you'll be your younger self? You feel like you'll be your older self?
I like myself right now.
Yeah,
like, I'm cool.
self.
My now self is cool. Like, I've always envisioned where I am right now. Whenever I've envisioned this, it's always been that way. And I just feel like every time I watch a video that's like a near-death experience, it's like, it was exactly like I thought it would be. So how is everybody having an exactly how I thought it would be moment?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I'm getting deep.
No.
But I'm just saying,
That's
yeah,
wild.
I'm just saying, how is it always exactly as they thought it would be? There's nobody sits there and says, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
So, and everybody has a different vision of what it is. So I think it's whatever you want. That's what I'm going to say, you know, and I could, you know, people might think like, oh, Miles is on a whole nother page right now. I always am. Memo to self. I am always on another page, but I just think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful when people can connect and find their connection and be happy with it. And that's all I concern myself with. But I also like to know when you do have, you know, like if you are religious and you decide that, okay, I'm more spiritual now, I just feel connected to everybody. Like, what does that feel like for you as a human? Like when you make that decision or when you make that change, or was it just a shift that just occurred? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember, to answer your question, I was in Connecticut and it was in the summertime, and I was talking to a friend or somebody that I was like interested in at the time, and I was telling her about sort of my religious sort of hang up that I was having, whereas I still go to church and stuff, and yet I feel like I don't lean in all the way, and you know, and she was just like, you're not being hot or cold, you're just being in the middle, like make a decision. And that was like, that was mind blowing. Like, just commit to whatever it is you believe in. Really, yeah, don't tiptoe around it. If this is how you feel, like, lean into that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the moment where you were like, okay, I feel more comfortable with this, or this feels more real to me, or I feel more connected to this thing.
I feel like it's all, for me, some people like kind of have a moment where everything changes. For me, it's like, it's always gradual. It's always gradual. And the lessons that that I learned 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'm still remembering and relearning those same things, just in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, it's never like a boom, you know, to me. Or even if I do have one of those big moments, it's like I have it, and then like it's almost like there's a dimmer on it, and that light switch goes back down.
Right.
You know, you got to keep it up. You know, you have to remind yourself. You have to like reinforce the things that you learn.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. You know.
Right.
I wish I could just have a realization and never have to put it into practice anymore. But that's just not how it is.
Right.
Like even that stuff when I was telling you about Yale, like it was, like it sounds like it's like I got injured and then everything got better, but it was rough. I remember walking down the street wanting to like cuss out everybody that was passing me by, like going to a concert being like, what am I doing here? Like I hate this.
I hate this.
You know what I mean? It's like, feel like what am I doing here? And so I feel like it sounds real smooth on paper, but I feel like all these transitions have been gradual.
They're gradually changing you or molding you into the person that you are right now.
Right. I'm still changing.
Yeah. And you're forever changing, right? Because it's like you're always growing and expanding at every moment. And if you're not, like, what are you doing? I always, when people say, oh man, you've changed, I'm like, oh, I evolved. I think everything on this planet does.
Right.
I'm pretty sure of it, because if it doesn't, what are we doing?
Right. If it doesn't, I mean, we're all gonna die. So I was about to say, if it doesn't, it dies. We all die, but what are you like pushing forward? What are you expanding upon? How are you growing? You know,
how are you growing? How are you changing? How are you getting better? Right. So I like how you talked about how it's like a gradual thing. It's like all of your experiences combined into like this moment in time right now. Like they've molded you into who you are.
Right.
And you made like this slow, nice transition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, you can remember every single point that way too.
You can remember a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Versus just having these big, ups and downs or whatever and whatnot. I really liked how you were talking about how, like, in that moment with the young lady that you were having the conversation with, when she was like, oh, like, why don't you just stand behind whatever you believe in? Like, why don't you just make a choice? And you were like, oh, okay, I can do that. Yeah. It's not that hard anymore. It's like you were able to step outside of self and be like, okay, I can do that. I'm not tied to anything. It's like sometimes we feel like we have to do one thing, maybe because of our belief systems or the people that added into our belief systems, which are our parents, our preachers, our teachers, and whatnot. And at that moment, it was like, oh, I don't have to be attached to everything that everybody poured in. I can just actually just take a moment and be like, this is who I am now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's it was like a little moment of like a change, and that's been the process. I still get pressure to like, to be religious again, but it's like, I don't think that fits with who I am and where I'm headed, Right.
So. And if you decide to 10 years later, you can make that choice.
I can always make that choice.
That's another thing I don't think that we understand. We can change at any moment because that's still a part of our growth and our evolution.
Right.
Yeah. So. Okay, I want to switch directions with you about being an artist and what it takes to be an artist these days. Like, what's your relationship with social media and being an artist?
Yeah, of course. So what's it take to be an artist nowadays? I'll say this, like, I can't speak to every artist situation, but just from mine, it's really helpful for me. It's helpful to know where you thrive, to just experience a lot of things. For me, I realized it's in collaboration. For a long time, I thought it was me in a room by myself doing whatever it is I need to do. And that's part of it, but a big part of my thriving, a big part of my like growing and doing the things that excite me as an artist are collaborating with other people who are gonna see the things that I do not see. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's how I grow. That's how I thrive. So that's one thing, is finding the people that can help you grow, that you can collaborate with. knowing yourself, what it is you want to say, and just expressing that through finding ways to express that, like, truthfully through your music. If that's what it is that you want to do, if it's a self-expression.
Yeah.
For the social media thing, it is really fascinating, the time that we sort of live in, you know, like, it's a powerful tool for connection, for getting ideas across. I mean, that's how we, like, got in contact in the first place.
Yeah,
that's how I found out about this podcast, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it was through that. I do think, like, the more I like engage on socials and stuff, it's, like, definitely helpful to be around people who understand it, or to go hard in terms of, like, understanding how it works. Because it's very specific, especially nowadays. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's real specific.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. And again, that comes back to collaborating and finding people who are knowledgeable about that and working with them. Just like, how can we help each other
Absolutely
get where we're trying to go?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel the same. I mean, social media is it's an interesting tool. It's not real life to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that even people I love get caught up in the fact that they think it's real life. They'll be like, "Oh, you was doing such and such yesterday. You was on the road going." I'm like, "That was last weekend. This is this weekend. I'm on the phone with you."
Right.
So that means I'm not anywhere else but here.
Right here.
Right here. And you would have
Yeah.
known if I was somewhere else. But people take it so literal. Like, I can post something on my story and they will think it literally happened, 5-10 minutes ago, whenever I posted it.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm sitting on content because I really don't like social media. Because I feel like it's too complicated to live in this world and live online. Like, if I'm online, I'm missing out on this world.
Right.
If I'm in this world, then some would say I'm missing out online, but I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather be here in the moment doing what I'm doing here.
Right.
But that's just how I feel, though.
Yeah, it's a weird little place. It's like, because the things that happen online do have real implications on this world, right?
Yeah.
And the way things are sort of captured in this world or spoken about or whatever have implications online, and it's just weird.
This weird little circle thing going on.
Man, it's crazy. I think, like, I was just having a conversation with somebody about this today, but it seems like if we're living our lives through these little screens, and just seeing, going to the grocery store, working from home, hanging out at home afterwards. It's like you feel like you're out in the world because you see other people's stories and things like that, but you're not actually talking to anybody. You're not actually like outside. Like, it can be an illusion. It is an illusion, I think. But we still need it. You know what I mean?
It's a good tool. But it's not the end all be all.
It isn't.
It shouldn't take up 90% of your life.
Oh, man.
That's what it shouldn't do.
That's what it shouldn't do.
Because you'll miss out on this life.
Right.
The physical life. The reason that we're all here.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why there's been a push in recent years, or maybe the last year, for people to, like, gather. You know what I mean? When I see new music that's, like, inspiring people and exciting people, a lot of times it's oftentimes groups of people. It's like I don't know if you've seen, like, some of the, like, hip hop orchestra stuff that's happening, or like Masego with the hip hop orchestra he's with, or Tiny Desk concerts.
Oh, I mean, Tiny Desk is where it's at. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
People want to either feel like they're in around good people, or they want to be involved in that themselves. I feel like that's crucial, and I think that's why I've been doing more events in person. It's just like, man, people want to be around people. People want to just talk. People want to relate. People want to hear good music. People want to dance. People want to, like, have a great time.
Right.
And so I think my role, and maybe the role of the artist, is to like find ways to bring people together.
Because that's what live music is all about.
Right.
You're all together. You're all rocking out to one thing, and you're focused on one person or multiple people on stage.
Right.
But it's like a moment.
It's a moment
of celebration, and like our attention spans are all in one place.
Right.
How do you feel when people are at your shows and they have those little devices up and they're looking at you through their little device when they can just really look at you?
I mean, it's funny that you say that because I've heard that too. Like, don't, enjoy the moment, put your phone away. But, okay, I heard this and I think it's true. When you like see videos and photos of something from the past, it helps you remember it better though. In part, like it'll take you right back there.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, yeah. And then also like when people on the shows where people are taking videos and I can post about it later, like that just adds value to it in terms of people can like relate. They can imagine themselves being there and want to be at the next event that I'm throwing. I'm into that. I'm into that.
Right.
That's fine. If everybody is doing that, that's a different thing. But like, a couple people take out their phones and put it away and then they enjoy it. Okay, let's go. Like,
right.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
It's just trippy to me when I'm at like a big concert and it's like 1,000 or more people there and everybody has their phone up at one time.
I feel like that's a different thing.
Yeah, and I feel like too, the artists sometimes will ask about it, like, take your phone out. Let me see your light. I want to see your light. And you're like, okay, now all these phones are out. I just wonder, do we experience it differently when we have our phone out and we're videotaping it versus just taking it in without our phone? I just wonder as a person, do we have a whole nother experience? Because for me, when I don't have my phone out, I feel like I'm taking it in a lot more. Even though, like you said something about like, you remember it better if you replay it on your phone. I totally get that. But there's something extremely special to me about just being in the moment. Yeah. That too. And not having my phone.
Can they both be true?
I mean, it can be whatever you want, Daniel. It can be whatever you want. I mean, you're you. So you can, they both can exist for sure. And there's been times where I've gone to, like I went to my favorite artist's concert a couple months ago, and I definitely found myself with my phone out like 50% of the time. Yeah. Maybe like, I won't say 50. I'll give myself like 45.
Miles, 45?
But I was like, I've been waiting to see this guy. But this is the other thing. He was very interactive with the crowd. And so I remember like during the pandemic, like we did like for one of the podcasts that I work on, we did an episode about how the audience interacted with the musicians during that time because they weren't allowed to, maybe they had masks on, like your audience had a mask on, so they couldn't yell to you what song they wanted to hear. Yeah. Or they couldn't be as close to the stage as, an audience member typically is to the artist. So I remember somebody talking about how people would write the name of the song on their phone and then flash it to the artist on stage so they would say it. And he asked for songs and everybody was so loud and little old me trying to like get through the crowd, so I wrote it down on my phone and he actually sung the song that I wrote on my song.
Who was it?
Eric Bellinger.
Okay.
Yeah. So he actually sung what I wrote on my phone. So for me, that was a moment. I needed to capture some of this. This is too good to be true. So at the same time, I did like take in a lot of the show, but at the same time, I do realize like I did have my phone out like a lot.
A little less than half the time.
Something like that. If I go back and look at the footage, I wonder like how much do I really have? But I felt like I wanted to capture everything. But then another part of me was like, enjoy the moment. Like I had these like fighting thoughts in my head. Like you're here, that's great. You want to go back and look at it, but I haven't gone back to look at the footage.
Right.
You know what I mean? So really, what am I getting it all for? To post my moments, to share my moments with other people on social media so they can validate the moment that I just had with my favorite artist. You know what I mean? Bad Miles too. There you go.
But you remember that moment and your phone was up half the time.
I mean, a little bit under.
A little bit under half the time.
Okay, yes. Right. But speaking of like dope music, I checked out one of your music videos and you actually recorded it at KMFA, which is a station out here, and you were in the Draylon Mason room, which I think is so symbolic. Can you tell us about the song?
Yeah.
And why you chose that space?
Yes, yeah. So the song is called Keep On. And that was the first of a whole series of songs that we recorded in that space. That song "Keep On" is about just being in the middle of a relationship, of love, somebody that you love, that you care for, that you feel like is maybe a soulmate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you actually get to living with them, being close with them, it's like a whole other dynamic comes out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The first line is like, something about you, it moves me. Something
Yep.
about you is true. Did we meet in the past life?
Did we play in your youth?
You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
that. It's like a real feeling of love for somebody.
Right.
And yet the reality of living with someone and communicating with someone on a regular basis, of disagreeing, of pissing somebody off, being pissed off, you know, that's a whole other dynamic.
A whole nother thing.
All the love in the world is
It's
is
not
strong,
enough.
but it's not enough. You need some skills. You need some skills. But I think that song was inspired from that at that moment in time. You know, I just moved in with a partner and yeah, you know, it's good times and it's some difficult ones too, you know.
Right.
And but ultimately we keep going, we keep learning, we keep striving to make things work, because we need love, we need closeness, we need intimacy, you know.
Right.
So that's kind of the theme of that song.
What did you mean when you said we need some new skills?
Oh man, it's
What does Daniel Fears need in a partner? What does this mean?
oh man, what is it? Okay, so the skills are like, it's like learning how to not take things so personally. It's learning how to communicate. When I have a feeling of some kind, whether it be I'm jealous, or if I am angry that you left some stuff in the sink, or whatever it is, if I'm like really upset about that, that's probably not what it is. It's probably not that. It's like, is some way that I feel like I haven't been communicating with you, I haven't been communicated with very well? Do I feel like certain needs are not being met? Do I feel like I'm not meeting certain needs? You know, and so being able to step back before you say whatever it is that first comes to mind, and then like, okay, what am I really trying to communicate here? What's missing?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one of the skills. I mean, there's a lot of skills.
No, I get it. I mean, I feel like behind every argument, or, you know, everything that you might go through in a relationship, if it's something that, you know, causes a little rift between you and your partner, there's just a need that's not being met. You know what I mean? It's not really that deep all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you not doing the dishes could just be like, well, you never listen to what I say.
You don't take responsibility. You don't keep your word. You don't do this.
Yeah, it could be 1,000 different things that are just about. It's not really about the dishes.
No.
The dishes is just a symbol of something that some kind of way you haven't met a need that I require. You know, and it's hard for people to say that. They just say you didn't do the dishes, and then you start doing the dishes. They still got the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna get into
Okay,
that any further.
we're not gonna do all of that today, but we both know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, we both know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what do you need in a partner? To me, I feel like you're a successful musician, and I think that it takes a lot to be with somebody that's a creator, because we're not always understood with our schedules and the things that we have to do and how much of ourselves we have to share with everyone else.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's different from somebody that just has a 9-to-5 and they don't have to share themselves with the world.
Right. It's different. It's very different. And yeah, I mean, I'm grateful in some of the partners I've had in the past that have been understanding. I was in a long-term relationship for a long term.
A long time.
And I'm grateful that, you know, I feel like she understood that I would have to be kind of working after hours. I'd have to be practicing, creating, staying at people's houses till like 1 and 2 and 3, and you know, it's just like, this is how it is, and it's not so straightforward. So for me, I want somebody who's understanding of that. You know what I mean? I had a friend tell me, another musician, she's like, you need a wife, Daniel. You need somebody stable. I'm like, okay, all right. But that was an interesting way to put it. It's like needing like maybe some sense of stability with that person. If I feel like they are not able to provide some sense of stability, and if I'm not able to provide some sense of stability, it's like it's just not gonna work. We're gonna be like ships in the night. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So there's all types of relationships that work, but for me, I would like somebody that has a little bit of stability, somebody I can like adventure with, somebody that we can like lock in and do things that we need to do. So it's like kind of a versatile partner. And I would say this last bit too is like also wanting to be with someone who recognizes that we need space, that we need our own people, we need our own lives.
Can you look at the camera and say that?
We need space. You understand? Space.
Oh my God. I think I don't know if that's a creator thing or what, but like I'm the same way. Like I need to have my own life and my own stuff going on.
Right.
Like, yeah, we can have friends in common and all those good things, but I need to have my own space too.
Right.
Like I do, in order for me to create and to find some room in this brain of mine to have a place to create. I have to have that. Okay, life-changing book for you.
Like, oh man, okay. This is several. I love reading, but the most recent one that has been life-changing was the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh my goodness, I've been trying to read that since I was 12.
Wow.
I've had it for so long.
This is your cue.
I need to
that
read
universal
it.
cue.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Writing it down.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay. Why? Okay, so I this is the shortest story, I swear.
Okay.
But I played an event recently, and I was sitting down, and this older black gentleman came and sat next to me. And it turns out he is the chairman of the Jordan brand.
Okay.
And so it turns out he was also in jail for a while.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
the guy who did a lot with Jordan?
Yeah.
I know what you're
signed
talking
Jordan
about.
in the 80s.
He's in the movie, I think.
He's in the movie, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So like it was he said the book that was profound for him when he was in jail and got his life turned around was the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Okay.
Just like flips your whole perspective on relations between different races. He kind of tells it like it is, and you also see his transformation over time. He's so convinced that this certain way is the way of being, and you see it over and over. He finds that he's proved wrong. Life sits him down, puts him on his ass, you know, like and he finds himself transforming. It's a powerful book. Okay. I'd be curious what your perspective is as a woman reading it, because it is very like male centric.
Yeah, I know.
I've
read. I mean, I've read maybe the first 30 pages or so, and I felt like I get the voice that he's speaking from. So I totally I'm ready for it though, for sure. But thank you for sharing that. And you have your own day.
Yeah.
Your goals. Wow. June 8th is your day.
Yep, June 8th.
What can we expect on this June 8th?
This June 8th, we're doing this show with a beautiful string ensemble. So it's my original music, R&B, soul, this genre blending, beautiful sounds with a string quintet, with these incredible singers, with a great rhythm section at the O4 Center. So that's how we're celebrating this year. I got new music that I'm releasing. And honestly, the celebration is continuing throughout that month.
I was going to say, you got more. Hit us with the rest.
Yeah. So June 19th as well. My music has been put in a short film by this wonderful director, Holly Charles Pearson. And it's a beautiful film, a reimagining of American history from a black lens. It's really powerful. And I just heard some of the music from the other music from the score that's composed is absolutely incredible. They really did it for this. So
I love it. Yeah,
we're premiering that movie. I'm performing. Y'all should definitely come out on Juneteenth if you want something that's fun, educational, uplifting. Like it's gonna be a beautiful night.
Yeah, and y'all also will hear from Holly in a future episode as well.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
Holly is magic, also, by the way.
Holly is magic.
That's
magic. A big shout out. I love that. She does seem like magic. I can't wait to meet her in person. Oh, for the second time, because the first time we met, it was like a quick little thing. This time it'll be more intimate, so I can't wait for that. What would you want to leave our audience with?
Like of anything, okay. I would say this. One of the most helpful things that has kind of guided me is to like know yourself. Reflect on your experiences, the good, the bad. Maybe write them down. Maybe talk to somebody about them. think back on your life. What experiences have propelled you forward? What experiences have excited you, have stirred you up? What experiences have you felt like have pulled you down, have like distracted you? And I had a friend just say, just do more of the stuff in the good column, do less of the stuff in the bad column. So that's my advice. Just find what stirs you, what moves you. Do more of that. Position your life to have more of those moments. You'll be grateful that you did.
Yeah. Daniel Fears, everybody.
I appreciate it, Miles. Thank you.
Yes, it was so good to have you.
Glad to be here.
Oh, what a feeling. It's more to a story when you count up who you dealing with. Losing's not an option, a subject or a predicate. They say the sky's the limit. Yes, I'm busting through the ceiling.